I also need to import my beach image, which will be the main background. Notice that these are the images again that I've already imported. And again, this is just one way of importing pictures into the document that you are working on. It's not as easy as it seems, although it seems like it ought to be a little bit easier. But what happens when you use the open option to import images in, or at least attempt to get all those images onto this one kind of base file that you've created? The open option can be a little bit cumbersome, but I'm showing you because it's always the go-to, and it's the one that always works. There are other methods which you can look up on YouTube, and I'll put some links for you guys so you can see those. But I wanted to show you how to get, say, this file, which is in its own separate tab, onto our main document, which is now currently blank. Keep in mind that each one of these worlds has, or each one of these images is kind of like a world. It has a particular color mode that it's been created in and saved in. It has a particular dots per inch or resolution, and it also has a particular dimension, right? So that that dimension may or may not match our original. So when we move these images into our final project document, they might look a little funky, but I'm going to show you how to fix that. So for the first thing I'd like to do, I want to get this image here, and I want to show you a real trick here is that you can just double click your zoom tool in Photoshop, and it should give you the actual screen size dimension of the document, and that's how big it would actually kind of print to, quite small. But I need to get this picture onto my Godzilla beach picture, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, hold, and drag over here on the layer, and I'm just going to drag it up onto the document tab so that that tab opens. And once it's open, I can just drag it into the document here, let go, and then Photoshop understands, hey, he wants to bring that picture onto this other tab. And I say, okay, here you'll oftentimes get a warning about a mismatched image or color format. I'm just going to say okay, and you'll notice here that in my 200 DPI world, which means that there are 200 pixels per every lineal inch on my document, this picture ends up looking quite small. I'm going to go ahead and close this one. I don't really need it any longer, and I don't need to save any of the changes because now I have that document here. And you'll notice that it puts the layer on top of the piece of paper, much like if you took a cutout piece of paper from your kitchen table and just kind of plopped it on a piece of paper to make a collage. It puts it on top. I'll grab Godzilla. I'm going to go to the layer here. You'll notice that sometimes these layers are locked. You can click on that layer, it'll unlock, and then it'll give you a variety of, if you double click it, it'll give you a variety of what are called layer style options, and I'll go over that later. But all you have to do is just click it once and it'll unlock. It just locks by default. I'll click, hold, and drag onto the layer, and then I'm going to drag it onto the tab part of that original image that I'm working on, and then I'll bring it over here. The purpose of me dragging it onto the tab again is to activate that window so that Photoshop knows which window I want to work with. So currently I have Godzilla here. I think he may be blocking my happy people, but that's okay. I can move him around, and I'll show you how to do that later. But for the short term, what I'll do is I'll move up here to the move tool, and if I can click, hold, and drag, and you'll notice that because Godzilla's image actually has a white background, that's why it's cutting off the picture there. See? And now that Godzilla's in my original document here, I'm going to close Godzilla. I can save. I accidentally click save, but I don't have to save it. I'll close it and not save. And here's my beach scene, and I think my beach scene will fit really comfortably in my new document. I'm going to click once on the lock, click, hold down my mouse. I'm going to drag it up onto this tab to tell Photoshop I want it to go over there, and then I'm just going to move it and drop it right in. And you'll see that was a very big image. It was something like 5,000 pixels in its horizontal dimension. And you can see it's covered everything up because as you add images to a Photoshop document, when you create a document, it creates a background image, and that's again much like a piece of paper that you might put on a table. And these are the bits and pieces that you want to use. Perhaps if we were using the analogy of making an old school collage, these would be sort of pages or cutout pics from, say, a magazine or a photo album. In this case, layer 2, which is Godzilla, Godzilla has a white background, so I'm going to have to cut out that background if I want him to blend into this later. And that's one of the quicker ways to get some imagery into your document and kind of clean up your workspace. Again, I'm going to close this image. I've already got it. And there are many other ways to start. So for example, I could have started with the image of the beach and used that. Just so long as you're paying attention to your pixel dimensions and your resolutions, you can go ahead and pick the largest image that you have and use that as a base, as a background. So there's lots of ways to get images in. I'm not going to go into it comprehensively, but I will try to put some links in so that you guys can see alternate ways to import images into a working document that you've started from scratch.